Print is exciting. Like, this is an incredible time to be a printer. The tools we have today are unbelievable, right? Our challenge is just like getting in front of the creatives. I always feel like all these tools don't really belong to me. They belong to the creatives out there. And so if I can just introduce them to them, they'll come back with new product ideas that I never even occurred to.
What's up, everyone? It's Eric Vessels with Taktiful. Welcome back to another episode of Taktiful Tuesdays. I believe this is episode 31. We're growing up. We're doing this thing. The podcast obviously is where print meets innovation with a sensory twist. Every week we unpack foil, varnish, spot UV, textures, transforming print from functional to unforgettable. And man, am I glad to have this dude on the show. Thrilled to welcome Paul Hudson, the CEO, steering Hudson Printing Company into the next frontier of digital embellishment. Paul's been on the road at Drupa and Scodex events, championing Scodex digital presses, showcasing some seriously stunning tactile finishes. Really cool stuff. He's also been a loud voice for clean, efficient, and customer-centric printing, calling it beautiful, clean, organized, highly productive. Paul's mission: to reinvent print by marrying technical excellence with creative flair, a sensory experience that wow clients and honor sustainability. Today, we'll dive into his print-first strategies, explore how digital embellishment elevates a brand, and of course, pepper in some fun personal insights. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. That was quite an introduction.
Finally, I'm glad I don't have to hold my breath through that because I would almost die. So just explaining again, I know that on the previous episode, I just saw 2 back-to-back episodes. We just had Mike Scrutton. I was also here, so everybody's going to recognize the background. It is the gift shop for the Museum of Printing. And if you haven't been in this place and visited my friend Frank Romano, you must get here. So that's the reason that you don't see a brick wall with the tactical light behind me.
What a great place.
Paul, what's that?
What a great place to be.
Oh, it's such a great place. A little warm, but it's warm everywhere. You can't avoid the heat right about now. It just is what it is. I want to talk a little bit about your printing roots, though, Paul. What inspired you to be in print, and how did your career path shape your passion for digital embellishments and kind of land you in a place now where you're leading just what is a fantastic printing company?
Well, my career path really started with my dad, who was a strong believer in childhood labor. Not kidding. I'm really not kidding. I would spend a lot of time at the print shop as a young person, and sometimes
I always hear these stories so there's several people that tell these types of stories, and they all involve pallets or some type or brooms or some type of work with pallets and brooms. Or how did your journey go?
Oh, there were definitely brooms, absolutely brooms, and definitely some pallets, but I would say even more boxes. I remember often being, as a young person, like, you can't operate machinery or whatever. Obviously, he was somewhat responsible, and I can say whatever I want now because he's not around anymore, sadly. But yeah, exactly. But I will say that I do remember very viscerally making many, many, many boxes. So tape, box, and then that would supply the manufacturing floor, of course. So yeah, lots of time at the print shop, and sometimes the print shop came to us at home too. I remember delivery trucks showing up with pallets of things that needed this or that, and yeah, my dad was a strong believer in including us in the print shop.
So I'm going to just choose to call that provenance.
Okay.
Rather than child labor. Got a strong background, a strong history. Lead us to kind of tell us a little bit about where you're at. Tell us a little bit about Hudson Printing, first of all. A lot of people know who you are, who are in the industry. Maybe there's some folks that don't know.
Yeah.
Tell us about that foundation. What are you guys about? What are you producing, and what excites you?
Thank you. Yeah. So just a really quick history lesson. We're a very old company, 115 years. We are now 50 years as Hudson Printing. So my dad bought the business in 1975, and then he ran it for 20 years, and my brother and I ran it for 20 years. And it was all at that time about just commercial print, web offset, so magazines, catalogs, that kind of thing. Around the invention of the internet and such, I was talking to my brother a lot about digital technologies and how are we going to remain relevant for the next 100 years. And my brother's older than I am, and he kind of thought that didn't sound like a lot of fun and smelled like investment and risk to him. And so I bought his half of the company in 2012 and set on this task of building a companion digital business to match up with our existing web offset business that we still run. So that's kind of the breadth of us is we still do magazines, catalogs, all of that kind of thing at volume. And then we have this growing, dynamic, very rich digital business that layers on top of it and allows us not only to kind of like do both of those businesses, but also do hybrid products and mix and match and do best of it for whatever a customer needs across that skill set.
No, really, I mean, really smart strategy, because if that diversification also allows you for maximum room to pivot, right? Like, if you're doing a bunch of things and some of those things, those markets go away,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to go away, right? You just pivot, put more resources into what's working and rock and roll.
It's also a chase of what allows you to differentiate, right? So, much as I like the traditional business, and I do like very much, and we have terrific customers there, long term customers, many decade customers in a lot of cases, and I love that. But it's always been very difficult to differentiate yourself there. It's high volume, low margin, and it's always
Exactly.
price question. It's always price driven, and it's challenging. Whereas in the digital side of it, what you're allowed there is like all kinds of opportunities for product creation. You can bring in personalization. We can do extra colors. We can do embellishments. We can do just all kinds of things mix and match together without heavy startup costs or difficult project costs that to get something going and wow a customer with really cool things they didn't know were possible.
Yeah, I think that's the main differentiator nowadays, right? Is getting I mean, commoditization is okay at volume and at given margins, right? Like you said, it's like expected, like it's just there. But going beyond that and reaching out into those new territories is what I see, printers like Hudson's and there's several other examples
Yeah.
of that are really what I would call what I term personally progressive printers, right? They're very forward thinking, forward looking, always kind of pushing the boundaries. And let's talk about that differentiation for a second, because in our world, it's near and dear to the tactful heart is the digital embellishment. We feel like it's a massive differentiator because not everybody on every corner even has the ability to do the toner stuff, much less the inkjet stuff and raised varnish and digital foils. How has that been a differentiator for you? And talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys are doing in that realm.
Gosh, that's a big question.
It is. And we've got some time, so relax, it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect.
I am standing up, but I'll stand here ever how long you need me to answer the question.
I'm sitting down so I can outlast you for
I
sure.
know you can, that's my point.
Maybe a couple of ways I want to tackle that question. The first
Sure,
one is
let's explore.
nobody looks at that stuff and doesn't say that's cool. Like everybody looks at it and says that's cool. And which is great because that's not the default state in printing these days, right? Everybody is looking at the pizza flyer and saying, "Oh, that's cool," right? I mean, that it gives us a chance to do something that people haven't seen before. So that creates the opportunity to go out and just talk to people about it differently. And I would say that the second piece of that related is that it changes the conversation. Having the ability to do those cool things that people didn't know were possible changes a customer or a prospect's understanding about who you are as a company, right? All of a sudden, you're immediately put into sort of a different classification. And that creates opportunity. That gives you the opportunity to talk about other projects. It gives you the opportunity to bid on other work. It gives you opportunity to be consultative, right? When they
Mm,
say, hey, I want to do something and you had that cool thing and now I'm getting some ideas. An important corollary to that is that we're commercial printers, right? Embellishment is really obvious in packaging. It's really obvious in, say, book covers or something. If you're in a bookstore and you're, having to judge by the spine, something catches your eye, that's important. But we're commercial, right? So I really did wonder what happens with embellishment in direct mail. What happens with embellishment in publications? And it's been really interesting to watch that. And I'll tell you about it if you want.
I wanna know, but first answer me this question because I'm really interested. When I was listening to you talking, in my brain, I was going, "Is digital embellishment and doing those wow things, does that lift the CMYK business?"
Sure.
Right?
No
Like,
question.
they're like, "Oh, wow," right? So I want you to do some of that, right? But maybe it's expensive. But then I want you to do this other stuff too, right? Is it that kind of a situation? It
Yeah.
seems like that's kind of what you were getting across. So I wanted you to talk about it.
So that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to say anyway, which is that when I look at, we do dozens and dozens of publications every month, right? Embellishment does add cost, right? If you do it digitally, it can be less cost, at least from a make ready perspective, and depending on quantity, but it does it adds time and it adds costs, right? So you kind of are pushing the stone uphill in that case. So I did wonder what would happen with our publishers, and this is what happens: is you bring them in, you talk to them, you show them some examples, and they're just, "Wow, this is so cool!" And they say, "I don't know how this fits exactly with my project yet, but I'm excited about it," right? And they go away and they're excited. And then a few weeks later, you hear from them, and they say, or sometimes a few months, and they say, "Hey, you know that?" And they don't remember the name of it. Like, "Hey, you know that cool thing you showed me?" Right? you know,
Right.
yeah, yeah, I know what we're talking about. And they say, okay, I have my anniversary issue coming up. I have my awards issue coming up. I have my special event issue coming up. And I want to do something special for it. So then you start to consult about it and you say, okay, well, let's look at how we might do that. What do you have an idea for the cover? And so then what ends up happening is you end up creating a super cool awards, issue or anniversary issue. And in between they'll go back to, their regular printing and whatever. Then next time it comes around again, they're hitting it. And that's been really, really fun to see. One of these days I'm going to do a post because I've been collecting samples of customers, publishers who have a particular special reason, and then they'll add the embellishment. And it's just next level what they can do.
Well, what's occurring to me, Paul, is that could act almost like a margin bump long term to your volume business, right? Like
Yeah.
every now and then you get them to do this special thing that's more expensive, but they want to because they're excited about the embellishment. So that long term business bumps up just a tick because you've added that special one. And then maybe they think it's so cool and the effect is so cool that they do more of that and it's even more of an elevation. Am I off track? Is that
No, that's exactly right. So for that one particular title, yeah, it's going to be, hey, every August we do the awards issue, right? So we embellish.
right?
But then they're also going to say, hey, we're having a special event, so could we do that? Hey, I have this friend, and they saw my magazine, and they want to do something special. So absolutely, it expands and builds in those kinds of ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, what a great story. I want to talk a little bit about this efficiency mindset. I know you are really focused on that whole well-run shop philosophy, right? It's organized, productive, beautiful, clean, like what comes through the process, the tools, that whole ethos. Like talk to me about that philosophy and how has that first of all, like where did you get that from? Does it come from sources or did you borrow it? Did you steal it? Or did you come up with it? And then how is that helping your business?
So, I think that no matter what, you have to show well as a company, right? People know whether you care about their product. We're in the business of handling people's brands, right? If somebody is putting out a product, we don't put our name on it most of the time. Most of the time, they don't know where it's printed, but they're trusting us to take care of their intellectual property, their copyright property, their brand, right? So we have to take that responsibility really seriously. They trust us to do that, right? And I think every aspect of a business is going to kind of either add or detract from the bank account of that level of trust, right? So if
Yeah.
they come in and the place is absolutely disgusting, I mean, that's a withdrawal. If they come in and, the people are nice and the people answer their questions quickly and it doesn't take them, 3 days to get an estimate and it doesn't take them, a day and nobody's calling them back when they need to know whether their stuff shipped, right? Those are all going to be withdrawals. On the other hand, if you've got somebody that's on it, you've got somebody that is talking to them, you've got, the right level of service and the kinds of experience they expect, it will just be additive to the business. They will have a good experience and they'll tell their friends. So I think that's kind of just where it comes from. You kind of do business in the way you want to do business yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's most business that I've seen that run well are people focused, right? Like I always say at the end of the day, we don't really do business from entity to entity. We do business from person to person. Like it's relationship based. And I think, if you can focus on that, it goes back to the golden rule of like, all right, if this is a relationship, how do I want to be treated? Therefore, how do I treat you? And that builds long-term trust and good business. So it's good stuff.
I think that's exactly right.
All right. So let's get into the off-duty fun. You always know that I'm gonna go in this direction if you've watched many of these. Like, what when you're not like revolutionizing the printing world, what's your favorite way to like decompress, and what do you do for fun? I think I know the answer to this question, but I gotta lead you to it anyway.
Well, yeah. Anybody who knows me well already knows the answer to this question because I'm not shy about it. So I live in Salt Lake City, right? And the beautiful thing about Salt Lake City is that the mountains, in particular, we also have deserts, right? But the mountains in particular are really close to the city, and so I spend a lot of time in the mountains. So I ski a lot, I trail run, I mountain bike, I climb, all the things. And honestly, that's where it all comes together for me. Like that, I that's my lifestyle. And oftentimes it's really early in the morning and I'm, here in my seat by the time I'm supposed to be, right? So it's not that I'm gone all day, but I can do that and it puts my mind in the right place to be productive at work. Yeah, I love that. That's really important to me.
So nature, it sounds like a lot of nature grounding, and I think I mean, the consistency of that, I think, is probably more important than the duration, right? Like, it's easy to go take a weekend and go camping, right? But if you only do that once a year or twice a year, versus like every morning I get out in nature and then come to my desk and do the work. I practice something. I don't know if I've even talked about this before, but I practice something called forest bathing.
Yeah.
I'm actually a certified forest bathing guide, which comes from the Japanese in the East, a practice they call Shinrin Yoku, which translates to forest bathing. We sometimes call it forest therapy, but it's basically exactly what you're doing. It's about just getting out into nature, and that's it.
That is fascinating. I didn't know you could become certified in such a thing. And I'm out there. Usually, I'm breathing hard because I'm hiking or running or skiing or whatever.
Right.
But maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe I need to have you come out here and teach me
I
how
would
to
listen.
appreciate that.
I would trade you this. I would trade you hiking the hell out of me to where I'm breathing heavy because that's good for my heart. And then I will slow you down and get you more connected to nature and to the universe. 100% trade. You're in. We could even trade locations. I'll come to SLC and do it. You come to Kentucky and do it. By the way, the Bourbon Trail is only about 15 minutes from my house. So I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just
Deal.
saying. Deal. All right.
But you've seen some of our marketing pieces. I recently sent you out our topo piece, and I don't know if I sent you our spark piece, but the
You did. I got two. I had asked for two of the. Forgive me. I'm losing the title of the
milkshake,
magazine. The regular public.
milkshake.
Milkshake. Yeah, I had asked for that on LinkedIn. You sent me a bunch of stuff. The topo piece was one of my favorite things. If you've not seen the unboxing, go find it on my LinkedIn. I will tell you what struck me about that piece the most was the binding. And that surprised me. The first thing I noticed was just like, is that like, look at that, is that string? Like, what is, and that was tactile. First thing I did was run my finger and my thumb across the binding. And then, of course, enjoyed the absolute gorgeous visual explosion that happened when you open it up because it like folds out and then folds out again. Absolute brilliant stuff. So yes, sorry, long-winded answer to say yes, I've seen it, I've unboxed it. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sending.
Well, see, and the point I was getting to is just that it all works together, right? Meaning that we just talked about what I love to do, and for me, the mountains and being in nature and being able to enjoy experiences, human powered experiences out in nature are really important to me and essential to who I am. We're also a company that is centered here in Utah with 7 national parks and the mountains right on the edge of the city, and so when we talk about who we are as a company. We talk about our branding, our philosophy, how we think about the world. Like we draw inspiration from this place where we live, right? And recreate and enjoy. And so it's not really a surprise then that our marketing pieces would also tell stories from this place where we are, right? I think it's also part of that authentic thing. And in terms of the side sewing, that was obviously very intentional because again, the whole piece was about tactile. The whole piece was about being able to sense and feel the construction of the book. And so, it was obviously all meant to work together and all meant to tell the stories of our particular location, our particular philosophy on life, I guess.
It was a beautiful choice and it absolutely worked. It worked on me, and because I've been around for so long, I can be a little cynical with that stuff. I'm sure that like it would work really well on like your average person as well. All right, I'm gonna do something I haven't done before. It's first timer. I'm gonna do a rapid fire round. There's gonna
Ooh,
be
I'm
three.
scared.
Just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. Favorite embellishment technique right now?
Ooh, cast and cure. I love cast and cure. It's really fun.
Cast and cure. Hell yeah. All right. One print industry account to follow for digital innovation. Who should we be following?
Forever feel like I'm chasing John Bailey over there at Precision Proco.
All right, John Bailey, let's do it. All right. And what's one insight that you hope that people who have watched this will take away from today's conversation?
Dudes, print is exciting. Like, this is an incredible time to be a printer. The tools we have today are unbelievable, right? Our challenge is just like getting them in front of the creatives. I always feel like all these tools don't really belong to me. They belong to the creatives out there. And so if I can just introduce them to them, they'll come back with new product ideas that never even occurred to me.
That is one thing that you will find is true about creatives. Introduce them to cool stuff and tools. They will blow you away with what they end up
Yeah.
doing with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for most creative types, whether it's artistically creative or business creative. Just give them a little bit of something and they can make a lot out of it. All right. Paul, man, so great to have you on the show. Episode 31. Who should I talk to next that I haven't spoken with?
Oh
There's a
my
lot of
God.
folks out there.
God, goodness. You're putting me on the spot. Have you
Don't worry
talked?
about it. I'll figure it out if you can't think of anyone.
Well, obviously you've talked to David Bennett. Obviously you've talked to,
I
uh,
actually don't know that I have.
have you ever, oh, well, then there's an obvious answer.
That's I'm gonna get him on. It is a no-brainer. I don't know why.
Perfect.
David Bennett it is. Paul, my friend, thank you so much. Definitely gonna take you up. We're going to get the little trade thing on the calendar. This is just not, I don't
Okay.
just talk, I do. So just
Fantastic.
FYI, making a trip, and I'm gonna expect you to make a trip and we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Thank you
Thanks.
for sharing all of your insights, my friend. Really, really good conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time for being on the show. I know you're a busy dude, and thanks for all that you do for the printing industry. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. So nice to talk to you. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, man. See you.